The storm raged mercilessly against the wooden walls, as if the skies themselves were screaming in protest. Thunder cracked so loud it made the ground tremble, while heavy raindrops slammed against the glass windows of the small, dimly lit farmhouse. Inside, a young woman sat on the edge of an old, creaking bed, hands trembling, eyes swollen from hours of crying. Her breathing was shallow, sharp, as though the air itself refused to enter her lungs. Her gaze was fixed on the worn leather suitcase by the door, half-packed. The rest of her belongings were scattered around the room. A pair of faded shoes, a simple linen dress, and a cracked porcelain doll, the only memory left of someone she could barely remember. Her fingers tightened into fists on her lap. A loud knock echoed through the house. 3 knocks. Heavy, cold, unforgiving. She flinched, her heart thudding so violently that she felt it in her throat. From the hallway, a deep, gruff voice barked, "Hurry up. He's waiting." Her lips trembled. For a moment, she stared at her reflection in the dusty mirror. A girl with tear-stained cheeks, wild dark hair falling messily over her face, and hollow eyes that no longer carried the innocence of yesterday. Another knock. Louder. More aggressive. Now, the voice roared. Her legs felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds as she forced herself to stand. Her bare feet met the cold wooden floor, sending a shiver up her spine that wasn't just from the storm. She dragged herself toward the door, her fingers lingering on the metal handle as if she could still turn back, as if someone, anyone, would come save her. But no one ever did. She slowly opened the door. The tall, shadowy figure of the man she had feared her entire life stood there, his face lined with years of anger and bitterness, his hands rough and calloused, clenched into fists at his sides. His eyes scanned her from head to toe, not with love, but with cold, transactional judgment. "Fix your hair," he spat. "You will not embarrass me." Her lips parted, but no words came. What was there to say? No plea would change his mind. No tears would soften his heart. He had made his decision. Without another word, he turned his back and walked down the narrow hallway, his boots thudding heavily against the floorboards. She followed, her head low, her hands shaking as she tried to smooth her tangled hair, wiping her face with the back of her sleeve. As they stepped outside, the storm hit her like a wall. The wind whipped her hair around her face, and the rain soaked through her thin dress in seconds. But the cold of the storm was nothing compared to the ice that had settled deep inside her chest. And there, waiting at the gate, was a carriage. A black carriage, elegant, intimidating. The horses were tall and strong, their coats glistening even under the relentless rain. Beside it, a man stood, tall, broad shoulders, hands in the pockets of his dark coat, his face hidden beneath the brim of a black hat. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He simply watched. Her father marched towards him without hesitation. "She's ready," he said sharply, his tone devoid of any warmth or affection. As agreed, the man slowly turned his head towards her. His eyes, dark, unreadable, locked onto hers. For a moment, the entire world seemed to mute. The storm, the thunder, the wind, all of it disappeared into a hollow silence as she felt the weight of that gaze pierce straight through her soul. Her breathing hitched. Her knees felt weak. Her fingers gripped the fabric of her dress tightly. This was it. This was the moment her life would change forever, whether for better or for worse. And as the man finally stepped forward, the lightning flashed behind him, illuminating the sharp lines of his jaw, the subtle sadness in his eyes, and the mystery that surrounded him. He extended his hand towards her. "Let's go," he said, his voice deep, calm, but hiding something. A sadness? A secret? Or something else entirely? Her feet remained frozen. Her mind screamed to run. But her heart was confused. Because in that single glance, something told her this wasn't just the end of one life. It was the beginning of something far greater, something terrifying, and maybe, just maybe, something beautiful. The carriage door creaked open, revealing a dark interior lined with deep mahogany wood and velvet seats. Rich, elegant, but cold. The young woman stood frozen at the edge of the muddy path, staring at the open door as if it were the mouth of a cave leading to an uncertain future. Her father didn't wait. Without glancing back, he gripped her by the arm, rough, firm, and pushed her forward. "Get in. Don't make a fool of yourself," he hissed between clenched teeth. She stumbled, catching herself just before hitting the carriage steps. Her hands trembled as they clung to the polished frame. For a moment, her eyes flicked upward. The man was still standing there, silent, observing, his gaze unreadable, carved from something far colder than stone, or maybe something far sadder than anyone could imagine. Without a word, he offered his hand once more, hesitant, careful, not forceful, not like her father, but firm in its own way. Her lips trembled as her eyes flickered between his hand and his face. Was this kindness? Pity? Obligation? She didn't know, but her choices were as limited as the air inside her tightening lungs. Slowly, with every ounce of strength left in her shaking body, she placed her hand in his. His fingers were warm, rough from labor, but steady, a strange contrast to the emptiness swirling inside her. As she stepped into the carriage, the rain roared louder, as if the skies themselves were mourning her fate. Her father didn't say goodbye. He didn't even look at her, just turned his back and walked away, as if she were nothing more than a burden traded off for a transaction. The man climbed in after her, shutting the door firmly. The sudden silence was deafening, the storm now a distant echo beyond the thick walls. The horses jerked, and the wheels began to roll over the wet gravel, pulling them away from everything she had ever known. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the rhythmic clatter of hooves and the occasional creak of the carriage. She sat rigid, her hands folded tightly on her lap, her gaze locked on her trembling fingers. Her soaked dress clung to her skin, her hair dripping onto the velvet seat. She could feel his eyes on her, watching, studying, but not in the way men usually did. There was no hunger in his stare, no impatience, no cruelty. It was something different. He finally broke the silence, his voice deep, steady, yet laced with something fragile. "What's your name?" Her lips parted, but her voice barely made it out. Elena. Elena, he repeated softly. "I see." His tone wasn't cold, nor was it warm. It was careful, guarded, as if he too wasn't entirely sure how this was supposed to go. Another stretch of silence passed. Her fingers clenched tighter. Her mind raced with questions she was too afraid to ask. Who is he really? What does he expect from me? What kind of man agrees to this? As if reading her thoughts, he shifted slightly. "I don't expect anything from you tonight. You don't have to be afraid." His gaze turned to the window, watching the trees blur past through the rain. "This arrangement was not my choice either, but here we are." Her chest tightened. Not his choice. Her eyes cautiously lifted to him, studying the lines of his face in the dim light. Sharp jaw, dark stubble, eyes that carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. "Why?" The word slipped out before she could stop it. Her voice was small, fragile. "Why did you agree?" For the first time, his expression shifted. His jaw tensed, his hands folded together. A muscle ticked in his cheek. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he let out a slow breath, eyes still locked on the endless stretch of rain-covered fields outside. "Because," he finally said, his voice rougher now, "sometimes life gives you choices and sometimes it doesn't." The heaviness of those words filled the space between them like a thick fog. Neither spoke after that. Not for a long time. The carriage pressed on, farther away from the familiar pain she knew, and closer to a future so uncertain it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to fall. And yet, even in the suffocating fear, something stirred deep inside her. Something she couldn't quite name. Not yet. The carriage wheels eventually left the muddy path behind and rolled onto a wide, cobblestone road. Outside, the storm softened, but the clouds still hung heavy, like a warning that this wasn't over. Not yet. Elena shifted uncomfortably in her seat, stealing small glances at the man sitting across from her. Every movement he made was measured, controlled, as if he carried the weight of something much bigger than this moment. A past too heavy to speak of. She wanted to ask more. She wanted to scream. "Who are you? What's going to happen to me? Am I safe?" But the words tangled in her throat, suffocated by the same fear that had lived in her chest since the day she was born. Suddenly, the carriage slowed. Her breath caught as she peeked out the fogged window. Through the mist, the outline of a grand estate emerged. Massive iron gates, taller than anything she had ever seen, guarded the entrance. Beyond them, a long gravel driveway stretched into the distance, lined with towering oak trees whose branches arched above, creating a dark, tunnel-like path. At the end of that path stood a house. No, not a house. A mansion, built from dark stone, with high, pointed roofs and enormous windows framed in black iron. Lanterns flickered against the cold walls, casting eerie, trembling light. It looked both beautiful and terrifying. A place that seemed untouched by time. A place where secrets lived. As the gates groaned open, her heart thudded painfully. Her fingers tightened around the fabric of her dress. She had never seen anything like this in her entire life. Her father's farmhouse, with its rotting wood and leaky roof, suddenly felt like another universe. The man sat forward slightly, his voice low but clear. "When we arrive, there will be staff. Don't be afraid of them. They know." He paused. "They know about this arrangement." Elena's throat tightened. Her mind spun. They know. Her cheeks flushed with shame. What must they think of her? A poor girl. Sold. Exchanged like property. As if sensing her thoughts, he added, "They won't bother you. They understand discretion." His eyes met hers briefly, softer this time, almost apologetic. "But they will look." The carriage came to a stop at the grand stone steps leading to the mansion's entrance. Two large wooden doors stood at the top, framed by towering columns. The heavy sound of the horses snorting and stamping their hooves echoed against the stone walls. A butler appeared, tall, thin, dressed in black, his face blank, unreadable. Behind him, two maids hurried down the steps, holding umbrellas, rushing to open the carriage door before the rain could start again. The man stepped out first, offering his hand once more. For a moment, Elena stared at it, her lungs frozen. Then, hesitantly, she placed her fingers in his, letting him guide her down. As her worn shoes touched the stone steps, her knees almost buckled. The sheer size of this place, the gravity of what was happening, pressed against her chest like an invisible hand squeezing her breath away. Whispers. She heard them, soft but sharp, from the maids, from the butler. Quick glances exchanged. Curiosity, judgment, maybe even pity, or it's something worse. "Bring her things to the east wing," the man instructed, his voice firm, dismissing them without looking. "Prepare the guest room." Elena's eyes snapped toward him. Guest room? Without another word, he turned and began walking up the steps. And though every bone in her body wanted to turn and run, her legs moved on their own, following him. Inside, the mansion was even grander. High ceilings stretched endlessly above, adorned with dark wooden beams and massive chandeliers dripping with crystal. The floor beneath her feet was polished marble, reflecting the dim, warm glow of wall sconces. Portraits lined the walls, stoic faces from generations past, men and women whose cold, painted eyes seemed to follow her every step. She tried to swallow the lump in her throat, but it stayed, heavy, unmoving. As they walked down a long corridor, the silence was almost unbearable. Her fingers brushed against the velvet wallpaper as she passed, grounding herself, reminding herself this was real. This was happening. Finally, he stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. Turning to her, his expression was unreadable. "This will be your room," he said quietly. "For now." Elena blinked, her voice barely a whisper. "For now," he nodded, his gaze dropping for a moment before meeting hers again. "I don't expect anything from you tonight, or any night, until you're ready." Her chest tightened. Those words, unexpected, confusing, sent a strange, painful warmth flooding her. She didn't know whether to believe him. She didn't know if trust was something she was even capable of anymore. But still, something softened, just slightly. He stepped back. "Rest. Tomorrow we'll talk." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, alone, in a mansion that felt both like a prison and, somehow, like the beginning of something she couldn't yet understand. Her fingers wrapped around the cold brass doorknob. She took a deep breath and slowly stepped inside. The door creaked as it swung open, revealing a room unlike anything Elena had ever seen. Spacious, warm, and elegant in a way that felt almost unreal. Tall windows framed by heavy velvet curtains overlooked the endless fields now shrouded in mist. A grand four-poster bed stood in the center, draped with sheer white fabric, its wooden frame carved with delicate floral patterns. A fireplace crackled in one corner, casting dancing shadows across the room. Thick rugs covered the floor, soft beneath her feet, and the scent of lavender lingered in the air. Fresh, calming, foreign. For a moment, she stood frozen in the doorway, unsure whether to step in or retreat. Her mind fought against itself. Part of her still wanted to believe this was a nightmare she'd wake up from. Another part whispered something terrifyingly different. This is real. This is your life now. Her suitcase, battered, faded, had already been placed neatly by the wardrobe. It looked absurdly out of place among the polished furniture and rich fabrics, like a scar in a perfect painting. Elena stepped inside, letting the door close behind her with a soft click. The sound echoed louder than it should have in the suffocating silence. She crossed the room slowly, her fingers trailing over the edge of a dressing table, then the intricate carvings on the bedpost. Everything was beautiful, but it didn't feel like hers. Not yet. Approaching the window, she pulled the curtain aside. The rain had softened to a mist, and beyond the fields, dark mountains loomed in the distance. The sky was bruised purple, heavy with clouds, and the wind whispered through the trees like voices too quiet to understand. A lump formed at her throat. For the first time in hours, the crushing weight of what had just happened truly hit her. She was gone. Gone from the life she knew. The creaking floors of her father's farmhouse, the scent of earth after rain, the endless, punishing days of labor under the cruel gaze of the man who raised her. She should have felt relief, freedom, but instead, there was only emptiness. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred. She pressed her palm against the cold window, her other hand rising instinctively to cover her mouth as the sob broke free. Ragged, painful, the kind that came from a place deeper than words could reach. Tears spilled down her cheeks as her knees buckled, sending her sinking to the floor. She hugged herself, rocking slightly as the silence swallowed her cries. Why? Her mind screamed. Why me? Why this? But no answer came. There never was one. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Time twisted strangely here. In this house, in this life that wasn't supposed to be hers. A soft knock startled her. She scrambled to wipe her face, rising quickly. Her heart pounded. Before she could answer, the door opened slightly, and a young maid peeked her head in. She was about Elena's age, maybe a little older, with honey blonde hair tied neatly under a white cap and nervous blue eyes that darted between Elena and the floor. Good evening, miss, the maid said softly, her accent light, polite. I was sent to prepare your bath, if you wish. Elena blinked, struggling to find her voice. A bath? The maid nodded quickly. Yes, miss. It's ready if you'd like. Her fingers fidgeted with the fabric of her apron. Master said, you must be tired from the journey. Master. The word sent a strange shiver down Elena's spine. She hesitated. A bath. A real bath. Not a coal bucket behind a barn. Not a rush scrub with freezing water while praying her father wouldn't come yelling. Yes, she finally whispered. Thank you. The maid stepped back, holding the door open. This way, miss. Elena followed her down the hallway. The mansion at night felt different, quieter, heavier, like the walls themselves held secrets too old and too dark to name. Candles flickered along the stone walls, casting long shadows that seemed to move when she wasn't looking. The maid led her to a grand bathroom, larger than her entire childhood home. Marble floors, golden fixtures, and in the center, a large clawfoot tub filled with steaming water. The air smelled of lavender and something sweet, something unfamiliar. Towels, soft and pristine, were folded neatly nearby. I'll wait outside, miss, the maid said softly, her eyes kind but cautious. If you need anything, just call. Elena nodded, whispering, thank you. Again, the words feeling strange on her tongue. Gratitude wasn't something she was used to expressing or receiving. When the door closed, Leaving her alone, she stared at the reflection in the polished mirror. The girl looking back at her was pale, fragile, broken. But as her fingers reached for the laces of her dress, a strange thought crossed her mind, soft at first, but then sharper. Maybe, just maybe, this doesn't have to be the end of me. Maybe it's the beginning of something else entirely. As the warm water enveloped her, Elena closed her eyes, allowing herself, for the first time in what felt like years, to simply breathe. Her muscles, always tense, always bracing for the next cruel word or strike, slowly began to unravel. The lavender-scented steam curled around her face, softening her trembling breaths. Her fingers floated just beneath the surface, tracing slow circles in the water, as if trying to remember what it felt like to simply exist, without pain, without fear. But the peace was fragile. Beneath it lurked 1,000 questions, scratching at the edges of her mind. Who is this man? Why did he agree to this? What does he truly expect from me? Her thoughts spiraled as she recalled the moment their eyes first met. There was something in him, something hidden, something fractured. His voice, deep but carefully measured. His presence, intimidating, yet strangely protective. He hadn't touched her. He hadn't demanded anything. Instead, he'd given her space. A room of her own. A bath. Things no man in her life had ever offered without strings, without cruelty. Still, trust didn't come easily. When the water grew cold, she finally stepped out, wrapping herself in the impossibly soft towel the maid had left. Her bare feet pressed against the marble floor, and for a moment, she stared at her reflection once more. The girl in the mirror was still a stranger, but perhaps not for long. A soft knock broke the silence. Elena, a voice called, soft, uncertain. Female, the same maid from before. Are you all right? Elena tightened the towel around her. Yes, I'm coming. Opening the door, she found the maid holding a folded nightgown. Simple, but elegant, made of soft cotton with lace trimming. For you, miss, the maid said, offering a small smile. It's yours now. Elena blinked. Mine? She accepted it carefully, as though the fabric might dissolve in her hands. Thank you, she whispered again, unsure how many times tonight she had said those words. But every time, they felt more surreal. The maid glanced at her nervously, then lowered her voice. If I may, miss, don't be afraid. Elena's breath hitched. What do you mean? The maid looked over her shoulder, ensuring no one was listening. Then, her voice softened even more. The master, he's not like others. Not like men from places like where you come from. Her eyes held something. Sympathy or warning? I don't think he chose this marriage for the reasons your father told you. Elena's heartbeat quickened. You know, the maid nodded. Everyone does. The staff. We all know. Her fingers twisted anxiously in her apron. But you must understand, things are not always as they seem in this house. Before Elena could ask more, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Steady, deliberate. Both girls stiffened. He's coming, the maid whispered, stepping back quickly. Rest well, miss. Without waiting for a reply, she disappeared down the hallway, leaving Elena standing frozen at the threshold. The footsteps grew louder, closer, then silence. A soft knock. Elena, came his voice. Deep, steady. May I? Her fingers tightened around the towel. Her throat went dry. For a brief moment, panic surged in her chest. But then another voice inside her, quieter but stronger, pushed back. Breathe. You are not the helpless girl you were this morning. Swallowing her nerves, she managed to answer, yes. The door opened slowly. He stood there, still dressed in the dark coat, now dusted with traces of rain. His gaze met hers, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. His eyes softened, not warm, but cautious. Careful. I wanted to make sure you were comfortable. Elena clutched the towel tighter. I am. Her voice barely carried. He nodded, stepping just inside the doorway, but leaving a respectful distance between them. I imagine this is overwhelming for you. Understandably so. His jaw tensed. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Her eyes narrowed slightly, confusion swirling with fear. Then why? Her voice trembled. Why did you agree to this? A shadow passed over his features, something heavy, something unspeakable. He turned his gaze toward the window, as if searching for answers in the darkness beyond. Because, he finally said, voice rougher now, loneliness can be crueler than any storm. His fingers flexed at his sides. And, sometimes men like me are left with choices that are less than ideal. His words hung in the air, raw, vulnerable, and yet guarded. Then, after a pause, he added, but I give you my word, Elena, no harm will come to you here. Not from me. Her breath trembled. Her knees weakened. She didn't know whether to believe him, whether she could. But as his eyes met hers once more, tired, hollow, but honest, something inside her shifted. A flicker, a fracture in the wall she'd built around her heart. I thank you, she whispered, the words foreign, yet somehow necessary. He inclined his head. I'll let you rest now. His fingers brushed the doorframe. If you need anything at all, my room is at the end of the hall. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving Elena standing there, her heart pounding, her mind a tangled storm of questions, fears, and something else. Something unfamiliar, something dangerous, something that felt like hope. The night stretched on, heavy and suffocating. Elena lay awake in the grand bed, staring at the high ceiling above, her fingers tangled in the soft sheets. The wind howled against the windows, and the occasional creak of the old mansion sent shivers crawling down her spine. No matter how soft the mattress, how warm the blankets, sleep refused to come. Her mind spun in circles, too loud, too relentless. Every word he'd spoken replayed in her head, over and over. No harm will come to you. She wanted to believe him, but belief was dangerous. A sudden sound snapped her from her thoughts. Voices, distant, muffled, coming from somewhere downstairs. A man, then another, tension in their tones. Sharp, urgent. Elena sat up, her pulse quickening. Carefully, she slid out of bed, pulling the nightgown tighter around her. Her bare feet made no sound as they touched the cold wooden floor. Curiosity fought against fear, but curiosity won. She cracked the door open just enough to peek out into the dark hallway. Shadows stretched long against the walls, the candle flames trembling as though the house itself was holding its breath. The voices grew clearer. One was his, low, firm, controlled. The other angrier, louder, a stranger's voice. She stepped out quietly, moving along the corridor, each step cautious, each breath held. As she reached the grand staircase, she crouched, leaning slightly over the banister. Down below, in the vast entrance hall lit only by flickering wall sconces, two men stood facing one another. One was him, her husband. His back was to her, broad shoulders tense beneath his dark shirt, hands clenched at his sides. The other was a man she'd never seen before, younger, perhaps in his 30s, dressed in an expensive coat, his face twisted in frustration. This wasn't the deal, the stranger hissed, his voice sharp, filled with venom. You were supposed to. I made my decision. Her husband cut him off, voice like iron. Calm, but dangerous. And I don't owe you explanations. The stranger's jaw tightened. His eyes darted around, then narrowed. You think this solves anything? You think marrying some nobody changes anything? He let out a bitter laugh. The town is already talking. You're a fool if you think you can hide behind. Enough. The word was cold, final, the kind of command that didn't tolerate disobedience. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken threats. Elena's heart thudded painfully. Her mind raced. What is this? What are they talking about? What deal? The stranger shook his head, scoffing. You always were stubborn. Fine. Ruin yourself if you must. But don't think this charade will stop what's coming. Then, with a sharp turn of his heel, the man stormed toward the door, his boots echoing across the marble floor. Her husband didn't move. He stood there, motionless, his hands still clenched, his breathing shallow but controlled. Even from where she watched, hidden, unseen, Elena could see it. The tension, the weight pressing on him, the war behind his composed exterior. When the heavy front door slammed shut, the silence that followed was almost deafening. Her husband exhaled slowly, dragging a hand through his hair. For a moment, his shoulders slumped, not in defeat, but in exhaustion. A glimpse, just a glimpse of the man behind the walls. Then, as if sensing something, he turned. His eyes scanned the staircase, sharp, alert. For one terrifying second, Elena was certain he'd seen her. Her breath caught, her body pressed back against the wall. But after a moment, he turned away. Without another word, he walked toward one of the side doors, disappearing into the shadows of the mansion. Elena stood there, frozen, her mind a storm. What did I just witness? The pieces didn't fit. None of it made sense. But one thing was clear. This man, her husband, was hiding something. Something big. Something dangerous. And whatever it was, she was now part of it. The hallway felt colder as Elena tiptoed back toward her room. Her fingers brushed against the wall for balance, but her knees were weak, trembling with every step. The echoes of that conversation still rang in her ears, looping like a broken melody. You think this solves anything? This charade? Don't think this will stop what's coming. Her mind spun, desperately trying to make sense of it. What did he mean? What isn't he telling me? What is coming? When she finally slipped back in her room, she closed the door quietly, leaning her back against it, as if to barricade herself from the storm brewing outside these walls, or maybe from the one inside this house. Her gaze drifted to the window. The rain had stopped. The world outside was eerily still. No wind, no sound, just an oppressive silence that wrapped around her like a vice. Her hands trembled as she crossed the room, sitting on the edge of the bed. She pulled her knees to her chest, hugging herself. 1,000 thoughts, 1,000 fears. But one single truth floated above them all. She didn't know this man. Yes, he had been respectful, careful, gentle even. But tonight she had seen something else. Something darker. Was I brought here to be protected or to be used? Her fingers brushed the lace hem of her nightgown, fidgeting anxiously. She glanced toward the door, half expecting it to burst open. But it didn't. The house remained still. Then, a voice in her mind whispered something dangerous, something bold. You could leave. Her heart skipped. Leave? She rose, walking cautiously to the window. Her hands pressed against the cold glass as her eyes scanned the landscape. Fields stretched endlessly beyond the mansion, disappearing into the forest. No roads, no lamps, just wilderness. But where would I go? How would I survive out there? Her breath fogged the glass as reality set in. The world beyond this house was no safer than the one within it. A girl like her, alone, poor, with nowhere to run, would be swallowed whole out there. And besides, her chest tightened. There's something about him. She hated that thought, hated the way it made her pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Because buried beneath the confusion, beneath the doubt, was something else. A flicker of curiosity, a dangerous curiosity. A knock startled her. She spun around, her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't the heavy knock from earlier. Not sharp, not demanding. This one was soft, hesitant. Elena. His voice. Gentle, careful. Are you awake? For a moment, she didn't answer. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. But then, why was he knocking? Why did he sound almost unsure? She crossed the room slowly, pausing just before the door. Yes, she finally whispered. A breath. Then, may I come in? Her fingers hovered over the doorknob. Logic screamed to say no, to lock the door, to hide, to retreat into safety. But something deeper, something she didn't understand, whispered yes. She opened the door, just a crack. There he stood, not in his formal coat, not in anything intimidating, just a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled up, collar undone, hair slightly disheveled like he'd run his hands through it one too many times. His face looked tired, strained. I didn't mean to wake you, he said softly. I only wanted to make sure you were all right. His eyes searched hers, not demanding, not assuming, just searching. She swallowed hard. I couldn't sleep. A small nod. Neither could I. He hesitated. There's something I should probably explain. Her pulse quickened. Explain? He shifted, leaning slightly against the doorframe, crossing his arms, but not in a defensive way. More, as if bracing himself for something painful. I know this isn't how marriages are supposed to begin. His voice was rougher now, like every word scraped against something raw inside him. And I know you didn't choose this. Elena's lips parted, but no words came. He continued, but I need you to understand. I never intended for it to be like this. I agreed because, well, I didn't have much choice. His jaw tightened, not because I wanted control, or ownership, or anything like that. Her brows furrowed. Then why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Her voice was barely above a whisper. His eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something heavier, something sad. Because there are people watching, waiting. People who would destroy everything I built if I didn't appear. He hesitated. Respectable, stable, respectable, stable. Her heart dropped. Is that all I am? A shield? A prop? But then his voice softened. I never expected you to be. He stopped, exhaling sharply. You weren't supposed to be like this. Like what? She whispered. He met her gaze. So brave, so stubborn, so real. Silence. Thick, heavy. The air between them crackled with tension neither of them knew how to name. Then, before she could stop herself, she asked the question that had been burning in her chest since the carriage ride. What's your name? For a moment, he blinked, as if the question stunned him. Then a slow, almost reluctant smile ghosted the corner of his mouth. Gabriel, he said quietly. My name is Gabriel. Gabriel. The name echoed in Elena's mind, lingering longer than it should have. It wasn't just a name. It was a fracture, a small crack in the impenetrable wall he had built around himself. She stared at him. This man, this stranger, who had become, by the cruel hands of fate, her husband. And yet, for the first time since stepping into this mansion, he didn't feel like a monster, or a captor, or a villain from the stories whispered in the dark. He felt human. Gabriel shifted under her gaze, rubbing the back of his neck like he wasn't used to being looked at that way. With curiosity, with uncertainty, with no fear, but no trust either. I should let you rest, he muttered, glancing down the hallway as if suddenly unsure of himself. It's late. But Elena's fingers twitched against the doorknob, her heart hammering wildly. A part of her wanted him to stay, not because she trusted him. No, not yet. Maybe not ever. But because the silence of this house, the loneliness, was heavier than anything she had ever known. She opened her mouth, almost against her will. Gabriel, wait. His eyes snapped back to hers, sharp, alert. Yes. She hesitated. The words felt ridiculous in her mouth, like she wasn't even sure what she was asking. You said people are watching you. What did you mean? For a moment, Gabriel didn't answer. His jaw tensed. His fingers tapped rhythmically against his folded arms, a man calculating how much truth was safe to give. Then softly, there are expectations, responsibilities. This estate, my family's name, it comes with enemies. People waiting for me to stumble, to fail. His eyes darkened, and a man living alone, with no wife, no heir, becomes vulnerable. They whisper, they scheme, they circle like wolves. Elena's lips parted. Wolves. And marrying me stops that, she asked quietly. Gabriel's mouth pulled into something between a grimace and a bitter smile. Not completely, but it buys time, makes it harder for them to justify their gossip. They are threats. Her stomach twisted. So, I'm what? A shield. He flinched. Not physically, but something behind his eyes shattered for a second. No, he said quickly, firmly. No, I never wanted you to be that. But that's how this started. Silence stretched between them. Her mind raced. Am I angry? Am I relieved? Am I safer here than I was with my father? Or just trapped in another kind of cage? But before the spiral could consume her, Gabriel spoke again, softer now. I know this is unfair. To you, more than anyone. You didn't choose this. His hands dropped to his sides. But while you're here, you have my protection. You have my respect. Her breath hitched. Her chest tightened. Protection. Respect. Words she had never heard spoken to her before. But his voice dropped lower. If this is something you cannot accept, if you ever decide that you can't stay. Her eyes widened. Is he offering me a way out? Gabriel's gaze locked onto hers. I will not hold you prisoner here. The air caught in her lungs. Freedom? For a long moment, neither spoke. Neither moved. Just two strangers, bound by circumstance, by desperation, standing on opposite sides of a door that felt like the line between two different worlds. Then, Gabriel stepped back. His voice was almost a whisper. "Rest, Elena. We'll talk more in the morning." And before she could answer, before she could decide whether she wanted him to stay or go, he turned, walking down the hallway, his footsteps fading into the shadows. Elena stood there, heart pounding, mind spinning, staring into the empty space he'd left behind. Her fingers trembled as she closed the door. Leaning her back against it, she pressed a hand to her chest. Why, her mind whispered, why does this hurt more than it should? Because in that brief conversation, something irreversible had happened. A line had been crossed, and whether it would lead to salvation or destruction was something neither of them yet knew. The morning came slowly. The first pale rays of sunlight filtered through the heavy velvet curtains, casting soft, golden lines across the floor. The storm was gone, but the silence it left behind was heavier, denser, as if the house itself held its breath, waiting for something to happen. Elena lay awake, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, the events of the night echoing over and over in her mind. Gabriel. His name alone felt dangerous now, a word that carried weight, a word she couldn't stop repeating in her head. She sat up, her hands gripping the edges of the soft, luxurious sheets. Her bare feet touched the cold wooden floor as she walked toward the window, pulling the curtains slightly aside. The view was breathtaking. Endless fields of wildflowers stretched beyond the estate, their colors glowing under the gentle morning light. Far in the distance, the forest loomed, dark, mysterious, hiding secrets she couldn't begin to imagine. Her breath caught. For a moment, she allowed herself to simply exist, to admire, to feel something other than fear. A soft knock broke the moment. Elena. A familiar voice. The maid from last night. Gentle, cautious. "Breakfast is ready, if you wish." Elena hesitated. Her instinct told her to stay, to hide, to curl back beneath the blankets and pretend the world outside this room didn't exist. But something stronger pushed her to move. I'll be there," she answered, her voice unsure, but steady enough to surprise even herself. When she opened the wardrobe, she found a selection of dresses, simple, yet elegant. Soft fabrics, earthy tones, nothing ostentatious, but far beyond anything she had ever worn in her life. Her fingers hovered. Were these for me? A small note sat on the shelf above them, written in precise, clean handwriting. "You are free to choose whatever makes you comfortable." Gee, her breath hitched. Her fingers trembled as she touched the paper. Forcing the lump in her throat down, she dressed, opting for the simplest dress of all. Pale blue, soft, modest. The hallway felt different in daylight. Less ominous, but not entirely safe. The portraits that had loomed in the shadows last night now stared at her in full clarity. Generations of stoic, unsmiling ancestors who seemed to judge her presence with every step. She followed the faint sounds of clinking plates, soft voices, and the smell of fresh bread down the staircase and toward what she assumed was the dining room. And then she saw him. Gabriel stood by the large window, one hand tucked in his pocket, the other holding a porcelain cup. His gaze was lost in the distance, watching the fields, or perhaps something far beyond them. In the morning light, he looked different, softer, less like a shadow, more like a man. He hadn't heard her yet. Her fingers gripped the doorframe, debating whether to speak or retreat. But before she could decide, he turned, as if sensing her presence before any sound betrayed her. His eyes met hers instantly, and for a heartbeat, everything else disappeared. "Elena," he said quietly, setting his cup down. "Good morning." She swallowed. "Good morning." A small nod. An awkward silence followed. The kind of silence where two people don't know whether they are strangers or something else entirely. Gabriel gestured toward the table. "Please sit." She obeyed, moving toward the long wooden table, beautifully set with silver cutlery, freshly baked bread, fruit, cheese, and steaming tea. It was more food than she had ever seen in one place that wasn't a town market. Gabriel sat across from her, hands folded. For a moment, neither of them touched the food. Neither spoke. They just existed, in the same space, trying to figure out what that meant. "I hope," he started, then paused, choosing his words carefully. "I hope you slept at least a little." Her hands tightened around the teacup. "A little," she admitted. Then, unable to help herself, she asked, softer than intended, "Did you?" His lips tugged into something resembling a smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Not really." Another silence. This one, not as heavy, almost cautious, curious. Gabriel leaned back slightly, his gaze scanning her, but not in the way men usually did. Not with hunger, not with judgment. It was something else, something more human. "I imagine," he finally said, "this isn't how you pictured your life." Her breath caught. A dry, humorless laugh escaped her lips before she could stop it. "No, not exactly." His eyes softened. "Me neither." For the first time, the invisible wall between them cracked. Just a little. A flash of something fragile, something dangerous, passed between them. Neither of them dared name it. Not yet, because naming it would make it real. They ate in silence. Not the kind weighed down by anger or resentment, but the kind filled with unsaid words, with questions neither knew how to ask. Elena's fingers trembled slightly as she broke a piece of bread, her gaze flickering between her plate and the man sitting across from her. Gabriel wasn't looking at her, not directly. His eyes remained fixed on the window beside him, watching the wind ripple through the fields like a sea of green and gold. But his jaw was tight, his posture stiff, as if fighting some invisible war within himself. She cleared her throat, her voice coming out softer than she intended. "Last night, the man who came, who was he?" Gabriel didn't move. For a moment, she wondered if he'd pretend not to hear. But slowly, he set his cup down, fingers curling tightly around the porcelain before releasing it. "His name doesn't matter," he said, his voice lower, rougher. "But what he represents does." Her pulse quickened. "And what does he represent?" Gabriel finally turned his gaze to her, steady, sharp, heavy with something she couldn't quite read. Pressure, expectations, threats disguised as business. Elena swallowed. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "Because you're not married? Or because of me?" His lips pressed into a thin line. "Both," he admitted. "But mostly because they believe I'm vulnerable." His eyes darkened. A man with no family, no wife, no heirs, is a man whose land, whose assets, whose legacy become easy targets. Her breath caught. "So this marriage is to protect all of that?" "Yes." His answer was immediate, firm, but then softer. At first, yes. Silence. Then his fingers tapped once, twice against the wooden table, a rare, unguarded tick. "But things change," he added under his breath. Elena's chest tightened. A strange ache, confusion, frustration, and something else she didn't dare name. Was I just a pawn, a contract, or am I becoming something else? But before either of them could speak again, a sharp knock echoed through the dining hall. Both turned, startled, as the butler stepped inside, his face pale, his eyes carefully avoiding Elena's gaze. "Sir, there's a visitor." Gabriel stiffened. "Who?" The butler hesitated. "It's Lady Marrow." The air shifted instantly. Elena felt it, like the temperature in the room had dropped, like something unseen slithered through the walls, wrapping its cold fingers around her throat. Gabriel's jaw clenched so tight she could see the tension ripple down his neck. "Tell her, I'm occupied." I tried, sir," the butler stammered, "but she insists." Gabriel stood, slowly, controlled, but the storm behind his eyes was impossible to hide. "Of course she does," he muttered under his breath. Without looking at Elena, he adjusted the cuffs of his shirt. "Stay here," he said, not as a command, not harsh, but protective, almost pleading. "No matter what you hear, stay here." Her lips parted. "Gabriel," but he was already moving, fast, his boots echoing against the marble floor as he disappeared down the hallway. Elena sat frozen, her hands trembling against the tablecloth. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out every other sound. Lady Marrow. The name tasted sharp, bitter, a warning wrapped in silk. But the worst part was the sudden, suffocating feeling in her chest. A feeling she didn't want to name. Jealousy and fear. Because whoever Lady Marrow was, she wasn't just anyone. She was part of the story, part of Gabriel's story. And now, whether Elena liked it or not, she was too. Elena sat frozen at the dining table, her fingers clutching the fabric of her dress, as though it were the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. Her heart raced, loud, deafening, almost painful inside her chest. Every tick of the old grandfather clock in the corner echoed like a drumbeat of dread. Lady Marrow. The name looped in her head, unfamiliar but heavy. Whoever this woman was, she carried weight, enough to make Gabriel, the stoic, controlled man who never flinched, visibly tense. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway where he had disappeared. Voices floated back, sharp, clipped, muffled by distance but unmistakably charged with tension. A woman's voice. Smooth, cold, dangerous. How dare you? Gabriel's answer came low, controlled, but strained. You have no right to be here. Then the woman again, louder this time. Oh, but I do. I always have. Elena's nails dug into her palms. Her instinct screamed to stay put, to obey. But her curiosity, her fear, her need to know was stronger. Slowly, cautiously, she rose from the table, her bare feet making no sound against the marble floor as she crept toward the hallway. Her back pressed against the wall, inching closer to the source of the voices. The drawing room door was slightly ajar, just enough. Through the crack, she saw them. Gabriel stood tall, his posture rigid, his hands balled into fists at his sides. But his face was strained, torn between fury and restraint. Across from him, a woman, beautiful, regal, the kind of beauty that wasn't soft, but sharp, like glass. Hair pinned perfectly, lips painted blood red, a dress of deep emerald that hugged her frame like armor. Her eyes cold, calculating, poison disguised as elegance. Lady Marrow. She paced slowly in front of him, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Do you truly think, she said, voice dripping with venomous sweetness, that parading around some peasant girl will fix anything? Elena's breath hitched. Her knees weakened. She's talking about me. Gabriel's jaw clenched. Be careful, Celeste, he warned, voice low, dangerous. You forget yourself. Celeste, Lady Marrow's real name. Oh, darling. Her laughter was hollow, sharp. You forget yourself. This little game, this marriage, it won't change what you owe. She stepped closer, her finger jabbing toward his chest. You made promises. To me, to my father, to everyone. Gabriel didn't flinch, but his eyes darkened. And I fulfilled every single one of them. Until you decided betrayal was entertaining. Celeste's smile faltered, for just a second. Then it returned, sharper than before. You think hiding behind a farm girl, her voice curled into a sneer, will protect you from the vultures circling? From me. Gabriel's voice dropped, dangerously quiet. She has nothing to do with this. Oh, Gabriel. Her head tilted, mock sympathy dripping from every word. She has everything to do with this now. You made her part of this when you dragged her into your pathetic charade. Elena's throat closed. Her hands trembled. Her mind screamed at her move to run. But her body wouldn't obey. Because then, Celeste's next words hit like a knife to her chest. You should have married me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Gabriel didn't answer immediately. His eyes closed for a brief moment, as if steadying himself, as if holding back something so volatile it could burn the entire room down. Then, slowly, he opened them. That was never going to happen. And you know it. Celeste stepped closer, her voice now a hiss. Oh, but almost did, didn't it? You forget, Gabriel. I know you. I know what you're capable of. And I know every secret you've tried to bury. Her smile widened cruelly. Do you think she won't find out? About your past? About what you've done? Gabriel's hands trembled, the first real crack in his armor Elena had ever seen. But his voice remained steel. Leave. Now. Celeste's eyes gleamed with something dark. This isn't over, she whispered. Not even close. She spun on her heel, her dress sweeping behind her like a shadow, storming toward the door, toward where Elena stood frozen. Panic surged. Elena stumbled back just in time, pressing herself against the wall as Celeste marched past, oblivious to her presence. The scent of expensive perfume lingered long after her heels clicked down the hall. When the front door slammed, the silence that followed was deafening. Elena stood there, her chest rising and falling rapidly, her palms clammy, her pulse a violent drum in her ears. Secrets, betrayal, a past he never spoke of. And now she knew one terrifying truth. Gabriel wasn't just hiding something. He was hiding everything. For a long moment, nothing, just the silence. Heavy, crushing. Elena stood there, frozen against the wall, her hands pressed to her chest as if trying to hold her heart in place. Her breath came in shallow gasps, every nerve screaming, "You should have married me." Those words echoed louder than anything else. They wrapped around her like chains, tightening, suffocating. Gabriel, this man who had been nothing but cold politeness, distant protection, and confusing moments of something else, had a past far messier, far darker than he let on. And now, that past was no longer in the shadows. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Heavy, slow, not the confident, measured steps she'd grown used to hearing from him. These sounded heavier, as if the weight on his shoulders had doubled. Gabriel appeared in the hallway. He didn't see her at first. His hand dragged down his face, his jaw clenched so tightly it looked painful. His breath was uneven, something rare for him. But then, he looked up and saw her. For a second, just a second, his mask cracked, completely. His eyes widened. His lips parted, like he might say something, deny it, explain it, hide it. But no words came. Elena stepped out from the shadows, her hands trembling. Who is she? Her voice was small, fragile, but steady enough to be heard. Gabriel's posture shifted, straightened. The wall went back up, but not fully. Not this time. He swallowed. Hard. You heard. It wasn't a question. She nodded, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, as if bracing for impact. All of it. Silence. Gabriel exhaled, long and slow, as if trying to find the right place to begin. His hand brushed through his hair, pacing slightly, then stopping, then pacing again. She, Celeste, Lady Marrow. His voice was rough. She was once someone I trusted, someone I thought. He stopped, jaw locking. A long time ago, there were talks of marriage. It wasn't love. It was business, an alliance, a way to secure what I'd spent my entire life building. Elena's breath hitched, but it didn't happen. His eyes darkened. No, it didn't. His hands curled into fists. Because they betrayed me. Her family, her father. They tried to take everything. A muscle twitched in his jaw. Land, money, the estate, everything my family built for generations. They forged documents, filed false claims, spread lies about me, about my name. His voice shook with rage or pain or both. And for a time, they nearly succeeded. Elena's knees felt weak. Her fingers gripped the fabric of her dress tighter. But why now? Why come here? What does she want? Gabriel's eyes closed briefly. Power, control, revenge, maybe all of it. He let out a bitter laugh, humorless. She can't stand the idea that I survived, that I rebuilt, that I found a way to fight back. And me? Elena's voice cracked. What about me, Gabriel? Am I just part of that fight? His eyes snapped open, and for the first time, the mask shattered completely. No, he said, sharp, immediate, desperate. Elena, I swear to you no. His steps closed the space between them, but he stopped short, as if afraid to get too close, as if unsure whether his presence would comfort her or shatter her further. I didn't plan for this. For you. When I agreed to this arrangement, it was supposed to be simple. His voice trembled now. A name, a contract, appearances. His hands balled into fists at his sides. But then you. Her breathing trembled. Her eyes burned. What about me? You weren't supposed to be like this, he rasped. So strong, so brave, so impossible to ignore. His voice broke. You weren't supposed to matter. But you do. You do more than I ever expected. More than I can explain. Tears stung her eyes, but she wasn't sure if they were from fear or from something far more dangerous. Gabriel, her voice faltered. Her hands trembled. I don't know what to believe. His eyes softened, filled with something raw, vulnerable, desperate. Then believe this, he whispered. I will protect you, no matter what. From them. From anyone. Even from myself, if I have to. For a long moment, neither moved. Two souls, battered, broken, standing on the edge of something neither of them could define. Was it trust? Was it ruin? Or was it the beginning of something neither of them was ready for, but could no longer deny? The air between them was suffocating, thick, charged. Elena's chest rose and fell in uneven breaths as she stared into Gabriel's eyes. Those dark, tortured eyes that seemed to hold an entire world of pain, regret, and something else. Something she didn't dare name. Her mind screamed to pull away, to protect herself, to rebuild the walls that had kept her safe, or at least numb, for so many years. But her body, her heart did not move, because in this terrifying, broken man, she saw something horrifyingly familiar. Loneliness. The same emptiness she'd carried her entire life. Gabriel took a step closer, hesitant, careful, as if afraid that one wrong movement would send her running. Elena, his voice was rough, strained. You have every reason to walk away. Every reason to hate me. I wouldn't blame you. His jaw tensed. But if you stay, his throat bobbed with the swallow. I swear, I will never let anything, or anyone, hurt you again. Her hands trembled at her sides. Gabriel, her lips quivered. I don't even know who you really are. His eyes closed. A sharp breath escaped him. I know. When he opened them again, they were softer, but darker, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen. Then let me show you. He turned, without another word, and started walking. Not toward the grand staircase, not toward the front doors, but deeper, down the side hallway she hadn't yet explored. Elena hesitated. Her fingers gripped the fabric of her dress. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. But her feet, they moved, because no matter how much her mind begged her to retreat, her heart needed to know. Had to know. She followed him. The hallway grew narrower, darker. The rich marble floors gave way to stone. The golden sconces disappeared, replaced by plain iron lamps that flickered with a colder, harsher light. Finally, they stopped, before a heavy wooden door, reinforced with iron, different from every other door in the house. Gabriel pulled a key from his pocket. His hand shook, barely, but enough for her to notice. Enough to realize whatever was behind this door. It terrified even him. He unlocked it, slowly. The heavy click echoed down the hallway like a gunshot. Then he turned the handle and pushed it open. The air inside was colder. Still, it was a study, or a vault. Papers stacked in organized chaos. Maps, ledgers, contracts, letters sealed with wax. On one side, a massive desk cluttered with documents. On the other, shelves of books and a wall of photographs. Elena stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning the wall. Dozens of photographs. Men, women, documents pinned beside them. Dates, names. Some faces were crossed out. Others had red string connecting them, forming a twisted web of connections, betrayal, and danger. Her stomach knotted. Her blood ran cold. What is this? Gabriel closed the door behind them, leaning against it as if gathering the strength to speak. This is everything, he said quietly. Everything they don't want you to know. Everything they've tried to bury. About me. About them. About this entire fight. Elena turned, her hands trembling. Fight. His jaw tensed. This estate, my family, it's been targeted for years. Lies. Lawsuits. Sabotage. Threats. Blackmail. He motioned toward the wall. These are the people behind it. Powerful people. Dangerous people. People who would do anything to see me ruined. To take this, everything I built. Everything my father built. My grandfather. His voice cracked. Everything. Her hands flew to her mouth. Gabriel. Her voice faltered. This is so much more than I ever thought. He nodded slowly, his eyes darkening. That's why I married you. His voice was rough, barely a whisper. Not because I wanted to, not because I planned to. His hands trembled slightly at his sides, but because I was desperate. I needed stability. I needed them to back off, to believe that I wasn't vulnerable. Tears burned behind her eyes. And me? Her voice broke. Am I just part of your strategy? His head snapped toward her. No, The answer was instant. Fierce. His steps closed the distance between them. Not anymore. His voice shook. Maybe it started that way. Maybe I told myself that's all it was. But Elena, look at me. She did. Against her better judgment, she did. His hands hovered near hers, not touching. Not yet, but close enough that she could feel the heat of his skin. You are not a strategy, he rasped. You are the only thing in this house that feels real. Her breath trembled. Her lips parted, but no words came, because deep down, as terrifying as it was, she believed him, and that was even more dangerous than anything on that wall. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty, it was loud. It was full of 1,000 words neither of them knew how to say. Elena's fingers hovered just inches from Gabriel's, trembling, not with fear, but with the sheer weight of everything pressing down on her chest. Her eyes scanned the wall again. The photographs, the red threads, the documents, the faces crossed out. Some of them had handwritten notes beneath them. Destroyed, turned against me, debt unpaid, lies, betrayal, threat. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just paranoia. This was a war. A war fought in silence, in shadows, in back rooms and legal contracts and poison words. Gabriel, her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. This is insane. He nodded, slowly. I know. His eyes darkened. And yet, this is the world I live in. She swallowed hard, trying to breathe through the chaos building inside her. And me, she whispered. Where do I fit in this and any of this? Gabriel stepped closer, close enough that his scent wrapped around her like something dangerous and safe all at once. You don't, he said, his voice rough. You were never meant to. That's why this wasn't supposed to happen. His fingers hovered near hers, trembling slightly. But it did. His eyes burned into hers, raw, exposed, unguarded. I don't know when it happened, Elena. I don't know how. But somewhere between the first time you looked at me like I was a monster and the second time you didn't, you became the only thing in this entire nightmare that I wanted to protect. Not because of strategy, not because of appearances, but because he stopped. His breath trembled. Because you are the only person who sees me and doesn't look away. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred. Gabriel. Before she could say more, boom. A loud crash echoed through the house. Wood splintering, glass shattering. Both of them jumped, spinning toward the door. Gabriel's entire body stiffened instantly. Hand reaching for a drawer in the desk where, to her horror, he pulled out a revolver. Stay here, he barked, voice sharp, all softness gone, replaced by steel. Gabriel, stay here. His eyes locked onto hers. No matter what happens, no matter what you hear, you do not leave this room. Do you understand me? Elena's breath came in short gasps. But it was too late. He was already moving, unlocking the heavy door, slamming it behind him. The lock clicked. He locked me in. Her knees buckled as she stumbled backward, pressing against the wall. Her pulse raced so violently it made her ears ring. Voices, shouting, more crashes, footsteps pounding against the marble floors. Then another voice. A woman. Smooth, cold, familiar. Did you really think it was over, Gabriel? Celeste. Elena's blood ran cold. She brought them here. Her fists clenched. Her eyes darted around the room, searching. Anything that could tell her what was happening or help her survive it. She stumbled toward the desk, yanking open drawers. Papers, documents, seals, maps. Then a key. A small brass key with a red ribbon tied around it. To what? Her hand shook as she grabbed it, her gaze darting back to the door. Her instinct screamed at her, stay like he said. But another voice, louder, sharper, shouted back. No, no more waiting. No more being locked away while the world decides your fate. Her fingers gripped the key tighter, because if this house was about to burn, she refused to burn with it. Elena's hands trembled as she stared down at the brass key. Small, simple, harmless looking, but something deep in her gut screamed that this key was anything but harmless. Outside the locked door, the chaos escalated. Shouts, crashes, heavy footsteps pounding the marble, glass breaking somewhere, maybe a window, maybe a mirror. And over it all, Celeste's voice. Cold, sharp, echoing through the mansion like poison seeping into every crack. Gabriel, you should have known. You should have known you couldn't keep her. You couldn't keep any of this. Elena's breath hitched. Her fingers curled tighter around the key. Her mind raced. What does she mean? Keep me? Her eyes darted around the room. Shelves. Cabinets. A locked drawer on the far side of the desk. Her pulse quickened. Without thinking, she rushed to it. Hands shaking, she shoved the key into the lock. For a terrifying second, it didn't turn. Then, click, it opened. Inside a box. Black. Heavy. She pulled it out, setting it on the desk. Her fingers hovered over the latch. Her breath trembled. Her entire body screamed, don't. But she opened it anyway. Inside letters. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Some sealed. Some torn open. Some stained. With water. With time. With something darker. She grabbed one at random. The first one her fingers touched. The handwriting was elegant. Precise. Celeste's handwriting. Her eyes scanned the words. You think this ends with her? You think marrying some farm girl erases what you've done? What your family has done? You're wrong, Gabriel. You always were. The blood on your hands doesn't wash away. Not now. Not ever. Elena's breath stopped. Her knees buckled. Blood on his hands. She yanked out another letter. This one older. Different handwriting. A man's. If the documents leak, it's over. He'll lose everything. Land. Name. Legacy. Everything his father left him gone. But if you hold leverage, if you have her, he'll bend. He always does. Her stomach twisted. Her vision blurred. Her. A loud crash made her flinch. Something heavy hitting the door. Voice is now right outside. Gabriel. His voice, strained, furious. Stay away from her, Celeste. Celeste laughed. Cold. Cruel. Oh, Gabriel. Always so noble when it's already too late. The doorknob rattled. A fist slammed against the wood. Elena. Gabriel's voice. Elena, open the door. Open it now. She spun, her hands fumbling with the lock, but something inside her snapped. Open it. Open it to who? Gabriel. The man who said he'd protect her. The man whose walls were covered with webs of lies, blackmail, and blood. Celeste. The woman who wanted to destroy him. And maybe her too. The door shook violently. Another slam. Another shout. Her fingers hovered over the lock. Her eyes burned with tears. Her chest heaved. Who do I trust? Then, a different sound. Behind her. A low, hollow, creaking. Slowly, her head turned. There, hidden behind one of the bookshelves, a narrow gap, barely noticeable. A draft of cold air whispered through it. A hidden door. A hidden passage. Her pulse surged. Her lungs tightened. Her feet moved before her mind caught up. She rushed to it, her fingers tracing the edges, searching. And there a latch. Click. The shelf shifted, groaned, opened, just enough for her to slip through. The voices outside grew louder. Desperate. Gabriel's voice breaking. Elena, please, open the door. Don't do this. Her hand hovered. One look back. One look at the man she had married. The man who had protected her, lied to her, needed her, loved her maybe. And then she stepped into the passage. Darkness swallowed her. Cold. Silent. The wall shut behind her with a soft, final click. And for the first time since this all began, Elena realized something bone deep, something irreversible. No one was coming to save her. Not Gabriel. Not anyone. She would save herself, or she wouldn't survive at all. Darkness. The hidden passage was narrow, cramped. The air smelled of dust, old wood, and something colder, like secrets that had never tasted sunlight. Elena moved carefully, her hands brushing against rough stone on one side, splintered wooden beams on the other. Her breathing came in sharp, shallow gasps, echoing louder than she wanted. Gabriel. His voice still rang in her ears. Elena, open the door. But it was fading now, muffled, distant. Her fingers traced the wall, searching, guiding. The floor beneath her was uneven, creaking in places, vibrating as the chaos outside continued. Shouting, crashing, threats traded like weapons. Then a sound. Different. Not from the fight. Not from the hallway. From here. From somewhere deeper in the passage. A shuffle. Footsteps. Slow. Careful, deliberate. Her blood froze. Her body pressed flat against the wall. Her hand flew to her mouth to silence her breathing. She's not alone. Someone else was in the passage. A shadow moved ahead, just beyond the faint sliver of light leaking through a crack in the wall. A figure, tall, slender. A voice followed. Low, male, smooth, but dripping with something Elena recognized instantly. Danger. Well, what do we have here? Her pulse exploded. Her feet stumbled backward instinctively, but the wood groaned beneath her. Too loud. The figure snapped toward the sound. Don't run. The command was sharp, icy, amused. It's adorable, but pointless. Elena's eyes darted, searching, frantic. Ahead, the passage narrowed, but to the left a split, a fork, left or right. The man's footsteps grew faster, confident. Pick, now. Her gut twisted. Without thinking, she darted left, squeezing through the narrowest gap she'd ever seen. Her shoulders scraped the walls. Her breath hitched, but she pushed. Behind her, footsteps. Faster, closer, then light, faint, flickering. She burst out of the narrow tunnel into a room. Not a room, a cellar. Stone walls, wooden beams, shelves stacked with crates, bottles of wine, old books covered in dust. And in the center, a trunk, locked, heavy, iron clasps rusted with age. But it wasn't the trunk that made her blood run cold. It was the fact that someone had clearly been here recently. Dust disturbed, footprints in the dirt floor, papers scattered across a table, a candle still burning barely. This isn't just a cellar. This was a hiding place, a meeting place, a place where secrets lived. A crash behind her, the sound of someone squeezing through the same narrow passage. Elena spun, her eyes scanning. Anywhere to hide. There, beneath the table. Cramped, tight, but maybe enough. She dropped to the floor, squeezing into the dark space as the footsteps stormed into the room. A man, tall, dressed in black, sharp boots, gloves. His face was half shadowed by the flickering candle, but his jaw was tight, his expression vicious. He scanned the room, slowly, deliberately. Elena, his voice was a cruel sing-song. Come out, wherever you are. Her hands clamped over her mouth. Her entire body trembled. I know you're here. His boot kicked a crate. You wouldn't leave. Not yet. He paced toward the trunk, squatted, fingers tracing the edges. Ah, he murmured. Still locked. He chuckled darkly, but not for long. Elena's pulse pounded. Her eyes flicked toward the trunk. What's in there? The man stood, turned, scanned. His eyes narrowed. Maybe. He stepped toward the table. You're right here. Her heart stopped. He knows. His boots scraped closer, closer, and then, boom, a gunshot. The man stumbled, slammed sideways into the wall. Gabriel's voice roared from the passage. Get away from her. Another shot. The man ducked, knocking over shelves as bottles shattered. He sprinted toward a side door Elena hadn't even noticed and disappeared into the darkness. Elena. Gabriel was at the table in seconds, dropping to his knees, yanking the table aside. His eyes were wild, frantic, terrified. Are you hurt? Her breath caught. Her body shook. But when his hands gripped hers, pulling her from the cramped space, it was as if every barrier inside her shattered. She collapsed against him. His arms wrapped around her instantly, crushing her against his chest. It's okay, his voice broke. I've got you. I've got you. You're safe now. I swear. But even as he whispered those words, both of them knew the truth. They weren't safe. Not even close. Because whatever was in that trunk, whatever secrets this house still held, the worst was yet to come. Gabriel's arms were still wrapped tightly around her, his breath ragged against her hair, when Elena realized this wasn't just protection. It was desperation. His hands trembled. His entire body trembled. A man who had faced enemies, threats, betrayal, who had survived battles both legal and personal, was holding her like a man on the verge of losing everything. Elena, his voice cracked. I thought. He couldn't finish. His hands tightened as if she might slip away if he let go. But her mind was already racing. Her eyes locked onto the trunk in the center of the room, the one the intruder had been so interested in. Gabriel. Her voice was a whisper hoarse. What is in that trunk? He stiffened. Completely. His breath hitched. Elena, no. His voice was sharp, but underneath the sharpness, fear. A kind of fear she had never heard from him before. Her hands pressed against his chest, pushing back just enough to look into his eyes. No more lies, she breathed. Her voice trembled, but her resolve didn't. Not now. Not anymore. What is in there? His jaw clenched. His gaze flicked to the trunk, then back to her. Torn, struggling, fighting an internal war. Then, slowly, something in him broke. He rose to his feet, his hand wrapping around hers, not letting go. Without a word, he approached the trunk. His fingers trembled as he pulled a key from a chain around his neck. A key Elena had never seen. The lock creaked. Rusted metal groaned. Click. The lid lifted. Elena's breath caught. Inside, stacks of documents. Files. Ledgers. Photos. Letters. Some sealed. Some torn. But beneath them, something else. A box. Smaller. Black. Locked separately. Gabriel reached for it, his fingers lingering, hesitating, then opened it. And what was inside stole every ounce of breath from Elena's lungs. Bundles of cash, gold coins, jewelry, certificates, deeds, ownership papers for properties, some with names crossed out. But most horrifying were the photographs. Photos of men, of women, of families, and beneath them lists, names, dates, amounts, settled, pending, eliminated. Her hands flew to her mouth. Her knees buckled. Oh my God. Gabriel's face was pale, hollow. He swallowed hard, his hands gripping the edges of the trunk so tightly his knuckles turned white. This is my family's legacy, he said, voice barely audible. Not the estate, not the land. This. Elena's eyes burned. What do you mean? He closed his eyes. His breath trembled. Generations ago, before this house, before the wealth, my family wasn't just landowners. His jaw clenched. They were enforcers, fixers. People came to them with problems, disputes, debts, rivalries, and my ancestors made those problems disappear. Her head spun. Are you saying? His eyes opened, haunted. Yes. His voice was hollow. Murder, blackmail, extortion, quiet, clean, permanent solutions. Her knees gave out. She stumbled back, slamming into the wall. No, this can't. Her hands covered her face. This can't be real. Gabriel ran a hand through his hair, pacing. When my father died, I thought it was over. I told myself I could turn around, make it legitimate, build something honest, something real. His voice cracked. But the debts, the enemies, the people who knew what this family was, they didn't just go away. Elena's pulse raced. Her vision blurred. Her stomach twisted. And me. Her voice was a whisper. Fragile. Barely holding together. Where do I fit into this? Gabriel froze. Turned. His eyes locked onto hers. His voice softened. You were never supposed to fit into this. That's why I married you. To escape it. To bury it. To show them I was different. That I wasn't my father. His hands clenched. But the truth is, I can't run from this. And now, his voice broke completely. Now you're part of it. Her chest rose and fell in sharp, painful gasps. Elena, I swear to you. Gabriel stepped toward her, slow, desperate. I never wanted this to touch you. I never wanted you to know. His eyes shimmered. I thought, if I could just keep you safe, if I could protect you long enough, maybe none of this would matter. But it did. It mattered more than anything. Because the truth was no longer a shadow. It was a monster. And now it had her name. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing moved. Not Gabriel. Not Elena. Not the air between them. Heavy like a storm just seconds before it breaks. Elena's back pressed against the cold stone wall. Her chest heaving. Her mind spinning violently. Her eyes refused to blink. Too focused on the trunk in front of her. On the files. The names, the proof that this wasn't just some marriage, some desperate arrangement, some misguided attempt at survival. This was a curse disguised as a family legacy, a curse that now belonged to her too. Gabriel's voice broke the silence, rough, cracking under the weight of something that sounded terrifyingly close to despair. Elena, but she lifted a hand. Don't. Her voice trembled, but it carried. Don't. His jaw clenched. His hands balled into fists. I never wanted you to see this. His eyes were glassy, fractured. I tried so hard to keep it from you. Tears blurred her vision. And what, Gabriel? Did you think I just live here? Play the part. Sleep in that house. Eat at that table. While this, her hand gestured wildly at the trunk, at the evidence of decades of blood and betrayal. While this sat under my feet, his face contorted. Pain, shame, fury, but not at her. Never at her. At himself. No, I thought I could end it before it touched you. I thought I could protect you from it. From them. His voice dropped, shaking. From me. Her breath caught. Her chest squeezed so tight it hurt. Then why didn't you tell me? Because you would have run. His voice shattered. And losing you would have destroyed me. Her lips trembled. Her knees threatened to collapse. You don't get to say that. You don't get to. Bang. A gunshot. Both of them flinched, heads snapping toward the sound. Upstairs. Close. Gabriel cursed under his breath. They're still here. His hands darted to the revolver at his side. His entire body shifted. No longer the man unraveling in front of her. Now, he was a weapon. Controlled. Calculating. Dangerous. Elena, listen to me. His voice was firm now. Commanding. There's a passage behind the wine shelves. It leads to the stables. You can take one of the horses. Ride south. There's a town. No. Gabriel blinked. What? No. Elena snapped, her voice sharper than even she expected. Her hand shook, but she stepped forward anyway, toward him. I'm done running. We're both done running. His lips parted, his brows furrowed, confusion, disbelief, something dangerously close to all flashing in his eyes. Elena, no more secrets, no more locked doors, no more pretending. Her voice wavered, but didn't break. You said you wanted to protect me? Then fight. Not by sending me away, not by hiding me. With me. For the first time, Gabriel stumbled. Not physically, but something in him, something rigid, controlled, decades old, cracked. His eyes softened. His hands, still trembling, slowly reached for hers. When his fingers touched her skin, it wasn't forceful. It wasn't desperate. It was a question, and her fingers laced into his without hesitation. I don't know how this ends, Gabriel whispered. His forehead rested against hers. I don't know if there's even a way out of this. His voice broke. But if you stay, Elena, if you stay, there's no going back. Her voice was a whisper, but it was steady. I know. Footsteps pounded above them. Voices, Celeste's voice, sharp, furious, commanding. Find them. Find the girl. Gabriel squeezed her hands. Then we do this together. She nodded. Together. His eyes burned into hers for one more heartbeat. One last fragile, precious moment. Before he turned, yanked the revolver from his belt, and scanned the room. There's something you need to see, he muttered. He moved toward one of the shelves, shoved aside a stack of crates, revealing a second door. Smaller, older, hidden even deeper than the first passage. What's down there? Elena asked, breath catching. Gabriel's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. The truth. And as he pushed the door open, the cold air that spilled out told Elena one thing. Whatever she thought she knew about Gabriel, about this house, about this marriage, she had no idea. Not yet. The door creaked open, releasing a gust of air so cold it felt like it had been trapped for decades. The smell hit her first. Damp stone, old earth, and something else. Something metallic. Something like blood. Gabriel didn't flinch. His jaw was set. His eyes were cold. Focused. Elena, he murmured, barely turning his head. Stay close. She didn't argue. Her fingers tightened around his. Her breath was shallow. Her legs felt like lead. But her feet moved anyway, following him down the narrow stone staircase. Each step echoed. Each sound was swallowed by the suffocating darkness. At the bottom, the space opened. A chamber, hidden deep beneath the house. Stone walls, low ceilings supported by thick wooden beams. And lining the walls were boxes. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Wooden, metal, some locked, some cracked open. Elena's eyes darted wildly. What is this? Gabriel's fingers flexed around hers. His voice was hollow. Records. Proof. Everything the family ever did. Every job. Every threat. Every life they ended. Her stomach twisted. Oh my God. She stepped forward, her hands brushing over one of the open boxes. Inside, files. Names. Faces. Photos. Notes written in frantic, scrawled handwriting. Target neutralized. Payment pending. Silence guaranteed. Tears stung her eyes. Her vision blurred. This wasn't just some dark family secret. This was a graveyard, but it wasn't filled with bodies. It was filled with legacies, with ruined lives. Her hands trembled as she flipped through one folder. A woman, smiling in her photo. Her name crossed out. Beneath it, note. Her son still asked questions. Monitor the boy. Elena's knees buckled. Gabriel, this is... I know. His voice cracked. I know. He knelt beside one of the crates, yanking it open. Inside, stacks of passports. IDs. Documents. Fake names. Fake lives. Ow. How'd it get this far? She whispered. Gabriel's jaw clenched. Because no one stopped it. Not my father. Not his father. Not anyone. His eyes burned. And I thought I could outrun it. I thought I could build something clean. Something real. His voice broke. I thought you were my way out. Her breath hitched. And now, she whispered. He looked at her. And for the first time since they met, Gabriel looked truly broken. I don't know if there's a way out anymore. Bang. A gunshot. Closer. Then crash. The sound of a door being kicked open upstairs. Voices. Footsteps. Running. Yelling. Find them. Celeste's voice echoed through the walls like a demon. Bring me the girl alive. Elena's pulse exploded. Her lungs tightened. Her fight or flight instinct screamed run. But Gabriel was already moving. Come on. His hand locked around hers. There's one more passage. Where does it go? She gasped. His jaw tightened. Outside the property. Past the northern ridge. His grip tightened. But Elena, there's something else. She stumbled as he pulled her toward the far wall. There, hidden beneath a false panel, another door. Smaller, rougher, older. Gabriel ripped it open. Inside, a tunnel. Crude, dirt walls. Low ceiling. As they stepped inside, his voice dropped, softer, rawer than ever. Elena, listen to me. She turned to him. His hands cupped her face. His eyes bore into hers. Dark, desperate, terrified. If we get out of this, if we survive this night, you don't owe me anything. His voice trembled. You don't have to stay. You don't have to forgive me. I won't hold you to this marriage. You'll be free. Her lips parted. Her chest ached. Gabriel. No, his thumb brushed her cheek. I need you to hear this. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me. The only thing that ever felt real. And if you walk away when this is over, I'll let you. I swear. His throat worked around a tight swallow. But if you stay, Elena, if you stay. His voice cracked completely. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I can be the man you deserve. Her vision blurred. Tears spilled. Her breath shook. As she gasped. I don't know what to say. You don't have to. His forehead pressed against hers. His hands trembled. Just survive this with me. Footsteps. Closer. Shouts. There. The cellar. Gabriel yanked the tunnel door shut just as boots thundered down the stairs. And together, hand in hand, they ran. Through the darkness. Through the dirt. Through the weight of a past that was no longer behind them, but chasing them. The tunnel was tighter than Elena expected. Damp. Crude. Roots tangled from the ceiling. Dirt fell in small clouds with every hurried step. Their hands stayed locked together, Gabriel slightly ahead, pulling her forward, never letting go. Behind them, chaos. Voices. Shouts. Footsteps. Find them. Celeste's scream echoed down the passage like a curse. Don't let them escape. Elena's lungs burned. Her legs ached, but adrenaline surged like fire through her veins, drowning out the pain, the fear, the exhaustion. The tunnel bent sharply, then again, then widened slightly, enough for Gabriel to slow, turning to her. His chest heaved. Dirt streaked his face. His hands trembled. We're close, he gasped. Another minute, maybe two. But then crack. A gunshot. The wall behind them exploded in a cloud of dirt and splinters. They're in the tunnel, someone roared. Gabriel grabbed her hand tighter. Run. Run, Elena. They sprinted. Blind. Desperate. Then light. A faint sliver ahead. Pale. Moonlight. Gabriel let out a ragged breath. There. Go. They burst out of the tunnel mouth, stumbling into a grove of trees beyond the northern ridge. The cold air hit Elena like ice. Stars shimmered above. The world stretched wide, but there was no time to feel relief. Because right behind them, boom, a body lunged from the tunnel. A man in black, gun raised. Gabriel spun, firing bang. The man dropped, but more followed. Footsteps, voices, flashlights cutting through the dark. This way, someone shouted. They're heading for the woods. Gabriel grabbed Elena's wrist. This way, the creek. They ran. Branches slashed at their faces. Mud sucked at their boots. Their breath came in ragged gasps. Then, they reached the water. A narrow creek cutting through the forest. Gabriel didn't hesitate. He yanked her into it. The water will hide our trail. They splashed forward, freezing water biting their skin. Footsteps thundered on the bank behind them. Where are they? Someone screamed. Gabriel pulled her under a fallen log, pushing her down, pressing a finger to his lips. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. Her fingers dug into his arms. Silence. Flashlights swept over the water, just feet away. Check downstream. Move. Go. Boots stomped. Branches snapped. Voices faded. Gone. For now. Gabriel exhaled, collapsing backward against the log. His chest heaved. His head tilted back, eyes closed. We made it. But Elena didn't move. Because something inside her, something deep, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel until now, finally broke. Not from fear, but from everything. Tears spilled. Her hands trembled. And without thinking, without questioning, she lunged forward. Her arms wrapped around Gabriel, her face buried in his neck. And for the first time since this nightmare began, she let herself fall. Into him. Into the man she should have hated, should have feared, should have run from, but didn't. Because somewhere between the lies, the betrayals, the danger, and the chaos, something else had been growing. Something terrifying. Something undeniable. Love. Gabriel's arms crushed her against him instantly. His hands tangled in her hair. His face buried in her shoulder. I'm so sorry, he whispered, voice cracking. God, Elena, I'm so sorry. She shook her head. Don't. Not now. Not yet. For a long time, they stayed like that, holding each other, just breathing, just surviving. Then, slowly, Gabriel pulled back. His hands cupped her face. His thumbs brushed away the dirt, the tears. His eyes burned into hers, raw, broken, but filled with something she'd never seen before. Hope. Elena, his voice trembled. We can leave. We can disappear. Right now. We take the money. Burn the rest. Start over. Anywhere. Anywhere you want. But only if you want it. Only if you stay. Her chest tightened. Her pulse thundered. Leave. Escape. Start over. The choice was hers. For the first time, the choice was hers. She looked into his eyes, those eyes that had terrified her once and now felt like home. Her answer was simple, clear. I stay. Gabriel's breath caught. His hands trembled. A broken laugh escaped him. Half disbelief, half relief. He crushed her against him again, holding her like he never wanted to let go. And as the first rays of dawn bled into the sky, they walked, together, into whatever future waited. A future born not from fairy tales, not from perfection, but from fire, from ruin, from love found in the darkest, most impossible place. And sometimes, that's the only kind of love that's real. Life is unpredictable. Sometimes, the darkest moments lead us exactly where we were meant to be. And even when everything seems broken, God has a way of writing stories we never imagined. Because love isn't always born in comfort. Sometimes it's born in chaos, in pain, and in redemption. May God bless you, protect your steps, and guide your heart. And remember, no matter how dark it gets, there's always light waiting on the other side. Now, tell me, where in the world are you watching this video from? I'd love to know. Drop your country, your city, or even just a flag down below in the comments.